I was on a long road trip coming back from my vacation, with a drive home that took about 16 hours. Determined to make it back in one go without stopping at a hotel, I powered through as the sun began to set. However, my eyelids grew heavy, and I found myself struggling to stay awake. To combat this, I snacked on some of the provisions I had brought, but my fatigue eventually got the best of me. I knew I needed a break to rest my eyes, even if just for an hour, or perhaps consider staying the night. The problem was, there weren't any towns or accommodations in sight. I zoomed out on the map to find the nearest place to stop, and the only option was a gas station about an hour away. It didn't look very promising, but I couldn't continue safely. I exited the highway and found myself at a gas station, seemingly in the middle of nowhere. This gas station stood at an empty crossroads with no other buildings or vehicles in sight. The main building's lights were off, although the gas pumps were still lit. It seemed that no one was working at the gas station overnight, making me a little uneasy. I parked on the side and kept a watchful eye for any signs of life. After about 5 minutes, I realized it was safe enough to rest for a bit. I reclined my car seat, turned off the engine, and closed my eyes. Sleep came easily, and I was soon in slumber. I didn't check the time before falling asleep, but I awoke suddenly at 2 a.m. I woke up in a daze, not entirely sure why. That's when I heard a clanging noise coming from outside. I turned to look towards the gas station's main building. There was a man behind one of the pumps, but my view was obstructed. He seemed to be fiddling with something. However, I didn't see his car, and it struck me that it was just him. I scanned the surroundings again, confirming that there were no other places to seek help within miles. The man continued his activities, then abruptly turned around and walked away. I lost sight of him as the gas station building blocked my view. The next time I awoke, it was to a loud banging sound on my car. My heart raced as I saw a man peering through my window, trying to open the doors. It seemed like he wasn't aware of my presence inside. I remained still and silent, unsure of his intentions. He eventually turned away and proceeded to pick something up. Swiftly, I started my car and reversed out of there. The man spun around, holding a metal pipe, and gazed at me as I sped away. My heart raced, and I stayed vigilant for the remainder of my journey. I will never know what his true intentions were, but the whole ordeal was nothing short of terrifying.
It was a regular weekday night, and I was home alone, working late in my room. I had a tight deadline, and my plan was to finish my work during the late hours. I was focused, but also feeling somewhat tired. My concentration was shattered when I heard a thumping sound coming from downstairs. I gazed at the doorway to my room, from where the noise seemed to originate. However, I quickly dismissed it, attributing the sounds to the rain and wind outside. The creaks and thumps seemed like typical house noises. I continued working for some time with only the occasional creak. Close to 1 a.m., the thumping returned, this time louder and from the lower level of my house. I went downstairs to investigate. Despite my initial thoughts, I couldn't find anything out of place or a source of the noise. Returning to my room, I got back to work. However, another thump echoed through the house, seemingly coming from the hallway just outside my room. I decided to check, now somewhat concerned. The man I saw when I opened my door was unsettling. His intense gaze followed me, and it was clear that he was watching me. Panicked, I went back to my room, locked the door, and searched for something to use as a weapon. The man started to pound on the door, and I grabbed a pair of scissors from my desk. The situation was terrifying, and I was too scared to call 911, fearing something might happen before the police arrived. I watched as the man kept pounding on my door. Then he suddenly stopped. I heard heavy breathing outside the door, followed by footsteps moving down the stairs and eventually to the back of the house, where a door closed. I dialed 911, and the police arrived quickly, but the man had vanished. Even though he didn't physically harm me, the fear and uncertainty of his intentions will continue to haunt me. I work 4 days a week with overnight shifts that last from 10 to 12 hours. To maintain a consistent sleep schedule, I sleep during the day and stay awake at night. On my days off, I stick to the same schedule. I'd usually wake up at around 9 p.m., have breakfast, and do some chores before heading out for a run. It was my way of staying active and maintaining a sense of normalcy. My house is located near a forest preserve, so I typically take a well-known trail. This path was a large loop, and I'd go around it as many times as I felt necessary. On one of my runs, things took an unsettling turn. As I completed my second loop, I noticed a man standing on the path up ahead. At first, I thought he was merely out for a walk, but as I got closer, I realized he wasn't moving. He watched me intently as I approached. I continued running, but the man's gaze followed me. When I looped around again, he had vanished. It seemed odd, but I brushed it off, thinking he might have taken a shortcut. The exit was on the opposite side, though, and he didn't pass me on the path. A sense of unease lingered, and I decided to cut my run short and head home. As I reached my front door, I heard a noise outside, and it was almost 1 a.m. There shouldn't have been anyone near my house. I looked through the peephole and saw the same man from the forest standing on my porch. My heart sank. I called 911 and reported a possible stalker outside my home. The man remained on my porch, unmoving, for a considerable amount of time. When the police arrived, he acted as if nothing was wrong and provided no explanation for his presence. The police couldn't detain him as he hadn't committed any crime. His behavior was strange and it left me shaken, but they couldn't do much. I still don't know what the man's intentions were, but his actions were unsettling to say the least.